The Demography of Ghana describes the condition and overview of Ghana's population. Demographic topics include basic education, health, and population statistics, as well as identified religious affiliations. This article is about the demographic features of the population of Ghana, including population density, nationality and citizenship, ethnicity, education level, health of the populace, religious affiliations, and other aspects of the population. The population of Ghana is 25,009,153. Population distribution. Population density increased steadily from 36 per square kilometre in 1970 to 52 per square kilometre in 1984. In 1990, 63 persons per square kilometre was the estimate for Ghana's overall population density. These averages, naturally, did not reflect variations in population distribution. For example, while the northern region, one of 10 administrative regions, showed a density of 17 persons per square kilometre in 1984. In the same year, Greater Accra region recorded 9 times the national average of 52 per square kilometre, as was the case in the 1960 and 1970 figures. The greatest concentration of population in 1984 was to the south of the Kwahu Plateau. The highest concentration of habitation continued to be within the Accra-Kumasi-Takoradi Triangle, largely because of the economic productivity of the region. In fact, all of the country's mining centers, timber-producing deciduous forests, and cocoa-growing lands lie to the south of the Kwahu Plateau. The Accra-Kumasi-Takoradi Triangle also is conveniently linked to the coast by rail and road systems, making this area an important magnet for investment and labor. By contrast, a large part of the Volta Basin was sparsely populated. The far north, on the other hand, was heavily populated. The 87 persons to a square kilometre recorded in the 1984 census for the Upper East region, for example, was well above the national average. This may be explained in part by the somewhat better soil found in some areas. With the improvement of the water supply and the introduction of intensive agricultural extension services as part of the Global 2000 program since the mid-1980s, urban-rural disparities, localities of 5,000 persons and above have been classified as urban since 1960. On this basis, the 1960 urban population totaled 1,551,174 persons, or 23.1% of total population. By 1970, the percentage of the country's population residing in urban centers had increased to 28%. The percentage rose to 32% in 1984 and was estimated at 33% for 1992. Like the population density figures, the rate of urbanization varied from one administrative region to another. While the Greater Accra region showed an 83% urban residency, the Ashanti region matched the national average of 32% in 1984. The Upper West region of the country recorded only 10% of its population in urban centers that year, which reflected internal migration to the south and the pattern of development that favored the south, with its minerals and forest resources, over the north. Urban areas in Ghana have customarily been supplied with more amenities than rural locations. Consequently, Kumasi, Accra, and many settlements within the southern economic belt attracted more people than the savanna regions of the north. Only Tamale in the north has been an exception. The linkage of the national electricity grid to the northern areas of the country in the late 1980s may help to stabilize the north-to-south flow of internal migration. The growth of urban population notwithstanding, Ghana continued to be a nation of rural communities. The 1984 enumeration showed that 6 of the country's 10 regions had rural populations of 5% or more. Rural residency was estimated to be 67% of the population in 1992. These figures, though reflecting a trend toward urban residency, were not very different from the 1970s when about 72% of the nation's population lived in rural areas. In an attempt to perpetuate this pattern of rural-urban residency and thereby to lessen the consequent socio-economic impact on urban development, the Rural Manifesto, which assessed the causes of rural underdevelopment, was introduced in April 1984. Development strategies were evaluated, and some were implemented to make rural residency more attractive. As a result, the Bank of Ghana established more than 120 rural banks to support rural entrepreneurs, and the rural electrification program was intensified in the late 1980s. The government, moreover, presented its plans for district assemblies as a component of its strategy for rural improvement through decentralized administration. Language. English is the official language of Ghana. There are 8 other languages sponsored by the Government of Ghana. Education. Primary and junior secondary school education is tuition-free and mandatory. The Government of Ghana's support for basic education is unequivocal. Article 39 of the Constitution mandates the major tenets of the Free, Compulsory, Universal Basic Education Initiative. Launched in 1996, it is one of the most ambitious pre-tertiary education programs in Africa. Since 1987, the Government of Ghana has increased its education budget by 700%. Basic education's share has grown from 45% to 60% of the total. Students begin the 6-year primary education at age 6. Under educational reforms implemented in 1987, they pass into a junior secondary school system for 3 years of academic training combined with technical and vocational training. Those continuing move into the 3-year senior secondary school program. Entrance to one of the 5 Ghanaian universities is by examination following completion of senior secondary school. Demographic trends. Ghana's first post-independence population census in 1961 counted about 6.7 million inhabitants. Between 1965 and 1989, a constant 45% of the nation's total female population was of childbearing age. The gender ratio of the population, 97.3 males to 100 females, was reflected in the 1984 figures of males to females. The figure was slightly below the 1970 figure of 98 males to 100 females, but a reversal of the 1960 ratio of 102.2 males to 100 females. The crude birth rate recorded in 1965 dropped in 1992, and also the crude death rate of 18 per 1,000 population in 1965 fell to 13 per 1,000 population in 1992, while life expectancy rose from a 1992 average of 42 years for men and 45 years for women to 52 and 56 years in 2002, with the infant mortality rate improved in 2012 and fertility rate averaging 2 children per adult female in 2013. Fertility and births. Total fertility rate and crude birth rate. Fertility and births. Total fertility rate and crude birth rate. Demographics Health Survey. Births and deaths. Demographic statistics. The following demographic are from the Independent Ghana Statistical Service, unless otherwise indicated. Population 25,009,153 females 50.5%, male 49.5%, population growth rate 2.1%, www. Index Mundi. Com birth rate 16.03 births 1,000, population death rate 7.53 deaths 1,000, population net migration rate -1.85 migrant 1,020, population age structure and sex ratio 0 to 14 years 22.8%, 15 to 24 years 23.7%, 25 to 54 years 42.4%, 55 to 64 years 5.9%, 65 years and over 5.1%, infant mortality rate 39.01 deaths 1,000, live births, life expectancy at birth, total population 65.46 years 66 years, male 64.48 years 66 years, female 66.48 years 67 years, total fertility rate declined from 3.99 to 3.28, with 2.78 in urban region and 3.94 in rural region. Nationality. Noun. Ghanaian. Adjective. Ghanaian citizenship, Ghanaian citizens, Ghanaian people, Ghanaian nationality. Law. Religions. Christian 71.2%, Pentecostal, Charismatic 28.3%, Protestant 18.4%, Roman Catholic 13.1%, Islam 17.6%, Traditional 5.2%, None 5.2%, Other 0.8%, Language. Asante 16%, U 14%, Fante 11.6%, Brong 4.9%, Dagumba 4.4%, Dangmi 4.2%, Dagard 3.9%, Kokomba 3.5%, Akyem 3.2%, Gar 3.1%, Other 31.2%, Ethnic groups. Akan 47.5%, Muldagbon 16.6%, U 13.9%, Gardangmi 7.4%, Gurma 5.7%, Gwang 3.7%, Grusi 2.5%, Mande 1.1%, Other 1.4%. Literacy. Definition. Age 15 and over can read and write. Total population 71.5%, male 78.3%, female 65.3%. Category. Education in Ghana.